Hey, hello. If you're here from part 1, good.
But if you're not,
You should probably go watch that first. Anyways, we left off at floor 6. The clear is basically the same as always. There are a few new strategies that I'll mention, but first the boss fight. This one is actually not as straightforward, so I'll break it down step by step. As soon as you enter the boss room, Sadan begins talking for a while. It's annoying, but he's been living in solitude for quite a while now, so you gotta understand. All he needs is some love. If you and your team are not experienced in running this floor, definitely focus down the golems as soon as possible. You basically avoid all damage by aggroing them and just standing here since they can't reach you. Once you kill them, go to where your tank wants you to go, which is typically the subscribe button. I hear clicking it makes you really cool. Also, please like the video. Anyways, as I was saying, go where your tank wants you to, typically in the portal for lower catacombs players, and then after a while, the terracotta phase will start. This thing is not a joke, and is the main reason why a tank is pretty much mandatory on this floor, unless you're really over leveled. Anyways, your job here is to just shoot. Basically the exact same as floor 5. The giants and Sadan phases have no real special strategies, just kill them. Now if your team is a bit higher catacombs and has a tank, you'll typically wake up the golems during the terracotta phase. You might be asking yourself, why not just kill them as quickly as possible? And the answer to that is poor game design. If you wake the golems up before or after the terracotta phase, it'll delay the next phase by quite a while. If you're not sure whether to wake them up or not, just ask your team what they want to go with. Okay, now for gear. This floor really emphasizes how squishy you are as a mage. You want a tank at all costs. That being said, you can still die during the clear in your current gear, so swap out one or more armor pieces of Wise Dragon armor for Necromancer Lord armor, typically with a Necrotic Reforge, but Giant is also an option if your survivability is just that bad. I don't recommend swapping out more than 2 Wise Dragon pieces though. Either go with only Necromancer Lord boots, or boots and pants.
Boots and pants and boots and pants.
I'm sorry. Alternatively, if you have a perfect or super heavy chestplate from before, you can also use that instead of getting Necromancer Lord leggings. Basically, this is kind of down to how much you can survive. If you're having trouble with it, buy a Necromancer Lord piece, and if you still die, buy another one. Switching out the Shadow Goggles for the Wither Goggles also isn't a bad idea at this point. They make you do more damage. What else do you want? But above all, again, I strongly recommend the Blue Whale. Get this pet. This pet is amazing. As for weapons, you have a few options. The first is sticking with the familiar Spirit Scepter, which is still alright here. The second is the Yeti Sword, which I completely dismissed last time because I'm dumb and stupid. I genuinely thought it was only an LCM weapon, but I was wrong. This thing's ability is actually pretty impressive, and its damage output is much higher than that of a Spirit Scepter. Like 10 times higher in fact. But it's not all positives. Firstly, the cost. It costs way more than a Spirit Scepter. The second downside is the range. The Spirit Scepter is very accurate with its fast projectiles and enables you to shoot the enemies down from a distance. This thing has some range, but it launches the projectile in an arc and takes a while for it to land. It kind of incentivizes playing as you would with the Hyperion. What I'm getting at is that you're gonna be in the enemy's faces a lot more with the Yeti Sword. That being said, the damage difference is very noticeable. This thing shines especially in the terracotta phase, acting like a pseudo Hyperion. TLDR, Yeti Sword Gug. The final weapon choice you have is the Midas Staff, which does even more damage, has a huge AoE, and is ranged, but has 2 glaring downsides. The first is that the gold block waves it shoots out block arrows, so your archer is useless. And 2 is the price. It costs around twice as much as the Yeti Sword does. Honestly, the first downside is what makes it so hated. I personally don't recommend this one, but it's not as bad as people think. If you're still struggling with surviving, you can also upgrade your Ornate Zombie Sword into a Florid one. And if that isn't enough, the Wand of Restoration and Wand of Atonement are also pretty great for heals. Once you're comfortable running floor 6 and get consistent S+ runs with score to spare, you should learn how to cheese the 4 Secret Trap. This one's an absolute nightmare to do legitimately, because it takes way too long. Instead, buy a Stonk, blow up this crypt here and stonk like so. Once you've gotten to the chest, just spam right click to open it. If you fail, just do it again. While we're at trap rooms, in the free secret trap you don't actually need to blow up this crypt if you're doing the Spirit Boots cheese I showed in part 1. Just fly up there. And just in case you aren't using solvers for puzzles yet, now is the time. There are plenty great mods out there for solvers. I personally use the Skyblock mod, so I've linked it in the description if you want to download it. Alright, now time for what you've all been waiting for, the big floor 7. At this point, you're stuck in what I like to call the Mage limbo. Because dungeons are poorly balanced, there is no way you can do anything notable with this kind of gear in floor 7. You'll first need to switch your armor to Freeforge Storm and Wither goggles. And that's honestly not that expensive. The expensive part is the weapon you need to get, the Hyperion. Without it, you're absolutely nothing on floor 7. Even in Storm armor, you won't be of much help to your team if you're using the Yeti sword or even the 100 million coin Midas staff. And you'll kind of die, because you won't have the Hyperion's healing. At this point, I recommend either grinding out floor 6 or temporarily swapping to a different class that can do floor 7 cheaper, like Archer or even Berserker to some extent. Or just grind coins to buy the Hyperion, I guess. There really isn't much I can say, you need this weapon. But once you get it, you won't regret your purchase. All the weapons so far have played in the same way, shooting projectiles and that's it. The Hyperion is a completely different beast, and is undoubtedly the best weapon for clearing in the entire game. If you're a hype mage, you should always blood rush because you're just so much faster at it than anyone else. Unless another hype mage wants to do so. I recommend calling Let Me BR or something like that in chat so that you don't have multiple people doing it. Oh yeah, and if you want to kill mini bosses, just look at the floor and spam right click. I haven't talked about puzzles much up till this point, but Bomb Defuse is its own thing. Bomb Defuse is a puzzle where two team members work together to solve various tasks and bolster their friendship. If you're a loser, that is, just cheese it. You do so by mining into the wall and bonzo staffing through like so. Once you're done, ask one of your teammates to start it, step on the pressure plates yourself, and that's it. I've also linked a full video on how to do it in the description. If this no longer works, look up Bomb Defuse cheese on YouTube. I'm sure someone's already figured out a new method on how to do it. Okay, Necron time. Before you even go through the Bloodroom portal, you should put on a rabbit hat. You can take it off immediately after you enter and you'll still have the jump boost, which is tremendously useful. The Necron boss fight has so many different strategies that I could make a whole video about it. In fact, this guy did. So if anything I'm saying doesn't make sense to you, watch this video please. Very good video. Anyways, the Necron boss fight has 4 phases, and as a mage, you'll play a large role in every single one of them. In the first phase, it's your job to get one of the energy crystals. There's 2 different ways of doing it. The first is Jerry Sheen gunning up the wall like so. Don't just hold it down by the way, spam right click. You also gotta get the angle right, so it's not really that consistent in my experience, although some people make it work. The second is using the Bonzo staff. What you do is go up here, stand on this block, and Bonzo staff at the ground right before you fall off. Plus L, plus don't care. It might seem difficult at first, but you'll get the hang of it. I personally prefer doing it with the Bonzo staff. Once both crystals are obtained, the tank will lead Necron into the laser and you can DPS him down. Don't just right click him though. You see, the Hyperion's teleportation is disabled in the Necron boss fight, so you can just spam right and left click at the same time and burst him down even quicker. In phase 2, the tank will go to one of the pillars, typically purple, and you or one of your teammates will need to lift it. This can be any teammate, it doesn't really matter. Typically your tank will want to upcrush though, so just step on the pad for a second to lift it off the ground and your tank will do the rest. You should also spirit leap to one of your teammates here, instead of doing whatever I'm doing. And if your tank doesn't know how to upcrush or fails it, just crush Necron normally and DPS him just like in phase 1. Phase 3 is the same for all classes really. Just call which section of terminals you want to do in chat. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, there's 4 different sections of terminals. The typical callouts for these are S1, 2B, 2T, the oldest anarchist 3, and 4. S1 means you're doing the entirety of section 1 yourself. 2B and 2T stand for 2 bottom and 2 top, 2B does the bottom terminals, and 2B does the top ones and the device. Whoever is on 2B and 2T should also flick the levers on 1 so that the person doing it has an easier time. 3 and 4 are just 3 and 4. You do everything on them, that's it. If no one on your team wants to solo 1, someone might call SS, which means Simon Says, and someone else must do the remaining terminals on 1. Unless you're doing 1, you will also need a Rogue Sword and Stonk here. I recommend spamming the Rogue Sword whilst you're falling down the hole, because you need almost 400 speed to be able to stonk through gates. Once you're at a gate, just do this until it works, and if it's not working, you need more speed. It's pretty simple really. Also, if you're sick of the lava damage here, get the Wither Cloak Sword. I realize this might all be a bit overwhelming, so recommend watching this part again after you do a few floor 7 runs yourself to properly understand it. It's for your own good, and definitely not because I want more views. No, not at all. In phase 4, just DPS Mr. Necron and you should be good. Stay close to your tank here at all times, otherwise you will die. Someone also needs to go mid here so that the others can spirit leap to them once Necron follows, but that's typically the archer. If no one does it, you can go mid instead. Also, once you do go mid, stand on the very edge of it, otherwise Necron will kill you. You can move closer once he says ARG in chat. A Wither Skeleton pet helps with damage in this phase, so I recommend buying that. It's pretty cheap anyways. Now, as you've probably come to realize, floor 7 is much more technical than any other floor. It's not just reliant on your gear to succeed, but also mastering various techniques and strategies. This floor is not made for you to play with goons from Party Finder. The team synergy just isn't there. I seriously recommend getting a perm party for floor 7, aka people you always play with. I don't want to extend this video even further, so if you're interested in learning about how to get a perm party, I strongly recommend watching this video from a good friend of mine. Link in the description. Okay, a bit of a gear update. Once you hit around Catacombs 32 or so, you should consider swapping Storm Boost for Maxer ones. The idea is that you still one-shot all regular enemies, but you're just way faster. Don't do this if you don't one-shot regular enemies though. A few Cata levels later, you can also swap out your pants for Maxer ones, and lastly the chestplate, for maximum speed. I'm not sure exactly which Cata levels you should do this at, but it's alright as long as you one-shot the regular enemies. If you want to be an absolute freak of nature, a true menace to society, you can also buy a black cat for the clear portion of the run, which just makes you absurdly fast. Just like every dungeon's pet, it needs a dwarf turtle shelmet of course. You can also change your Hyperion Reforged to Fabled at this point, but it honestly doesn't matter all that much in my opinion. Okay, finally, Master Mode. Seeing as Mage is by far the best class in floor 7, it should continue its dominance in Master Mode. Right? No. It's appallingly bad in Master Mode. In fact, Healer might be more viable, which says a lot. RCM is just completely unplayable, so I won't talk about it at all. LCM is okay, I guess. It has tremendous single target damage output, so it's good for mini bosses and blood camping. But that's where the pros end. Just switch to Terminator, or even Juju Archer or Berserker. I don't have much Master Mode experience, so I can't really provide any insight into the boss fights here. A lot of them play very similarly to the regular ones, but some have their own strategies, which makes them entirely different. Since Mage is bad, I won't even cover this. Seriously, just don't play Mage in Master Mode, it's not fun. But if you're a masochist and for some reason still want to do it, you will need an Ice Spray wand to freeze minis in place. Congratulations, you've passed the Mage course. Big giveaway in my Discord right now, so join that if you want coins. Thank you Gilitz for funding it. Okay, good night now.